Hi everyone, it's Sue Plumb here to share another scrapbook process video with you. Welcome to the latest episode of the Challenge Me, Challenge You series that I'm doing along with my dear friend Gwen Wruck from Created by Gwen. Now this month, Gwen has challenged me with grid design and I've challenged Gwen to use large embellishments. So we're both going to combine those two and see what we can come up with. So for this layout, I decided to scrap some photos of my cat, that's Genghis there, and he was out exploring in our yard, and I thought the perfect collection to combine with it might be the Let's Wander collection from Vicki Boutin, because in some of Vicki's collection, she has some rather large embellishments, and I've had these piling up, and I thought this might be the perfect opportunity to get them used. So as I just mentioned, Gwen has challenged me to use a grid design because structure on my pages is not something that I am well known for. So I did know that this was going to present a little bit of a challenge to me. So you can see that I am starting there with a sheet of patterned paper from the 12 by 12 paper pad from the Let's Wander collection. And I'm just starting by cutting the guts out of that paper because it's got a beautiful floral on the back that are just perfect for fussy cutting. And I didn't want to waste them all. So I've cut the middle away and I've put it aside and I'll use that on another project. Then I've trimmed down a piece of white cardstock that I am just placing over the top there. And I trimmed that down to measure 10 by 11. So it's not exactly a square because those photos that I had to use were not exactly square. They were sort of a little bit landscape. So I knew that my grid wasn't going to end up perfectly square. So I didn't want to cut my cardstock to be perfectly square either. Now, I couldn't go without adding a little bit of mixed media to this page, and I kept it very, very simple. So I'm using a Distress Oxide there. The colour I am using is Tumbled Glass, which is that beautiful light blue colour there. And I'm just mixing it up on my messy mat with just a tiny bit of water, and I'm just using the dry brush technique with my number 4 brush, which measures 2 inches wide. And I've just lightly brushed some of that colour across the background on my cardstock there. And that's basically all I am doing mixed media on this page, although there is a tiny, tiny bit of stamping near the end. So here we go. I had to figure out where I was going to place these photos. So I knew I was going to go with 3 rows and 3 columns. So I was going to do a 3 by 3 grid on this page. I couldn't do a standard grid though where I had square things, and because that's just not my jam. So I did my best to stick to using a grid, but you can see that it's a fairly loose grid design, for want of a better term. Fairly loose. It's a Sue style grid. Let's call it that. And Gwen, I hope this ticks your grid box. So you can see that I'm working, as I said, in 3 rows there. I probably stuck more with the rows than I did with the columns as such, because I don't like things to look too square and neat and precise on my page. And having said that, there I was with my T-square actually measuring some things and making sure things were straight. Now, like I said, I don't like things to be too square or too neat, but I also don't like things to be crooked on my page. So I am going to use my T-square just to keep things level, keep those rows across the page straight, and we'll see where we go from here. So I figured out how I was going to spread my photos out on the page first. Now, ordinarily when I create layouts, I will pop a little bit of scrap cardboard on the back of my photos to pop them up from the page and separate them from the background layers. But given that I was creating a grid design for this, and I wanted cohesion across the page, so I didn't want to pop those photos up on any cardboard and have them sort of sticking out from the page too much. I wanted everything to basically be on the same level. Did that make sense? I hope that made sense. So speaking of my cat, he's actually meowing outside my door right now. So if you hear that noise, my apologies. But I'm not letting him in because he's way too talkative, even more talkative than me, if you believe that. And he would completely ruin this voiceover. Moving on. So I as I said, I figured out the way I tackled this. I figured out where I was going to place those photos first because I needed a nice balance of the actual photos themselves. And then I started going in with my embellishments. Now, all of these embellishments were pulled from the various ephemera and embellishment packs that went with this collection. I had already done a little bit of a pre-sort through these packs because I did have 3 of them. Just to pull out some things with blues and greens because I knew I was going to be working with blues and greens for this page. And so I just had sifted through them and made a short list of things that might work. And then I went from there. So the way I wanted to tackle this, after I had my photos and had decided where my photos were going to be placed, I wanted to start working with the biggest embellishments first and filling up those big gaps first. Because as I said, in these Vicki Boutin collections, a lot of the embellishments are very big. And that was my challenge to Gwen. So I knew I had to work with some of the biggest ones I could find. So hence why in that bottom row, you can see I've used that postcard embellishment. So that's basically just a journal card, and it was my intention to add some journaling on there, but it was also my intention to layer some things under and over it. And you can see in that top row, I have got that card, that large card that's got the mountain scene on it that says Adventures in the Great Outdoors, because these photos were taken of my cat when he's an indoor cat. Let me stress that. But occasionally we do take him out for a little stroll around in our yard when we are out in the yard as well. So I thought that Adventures in the Great Outdoors would suit this page perfectly. I also had that large title there, which said Everyday Explorer. And I thought I would hone in on some of the embellishments. I can see that one there that I've tucked under the title that actually has the map on it that says You Are Here. And that was kind of the theme that I was going with, besides the fact that I was concentrating on those blue and green tones for this page. So it was just a matter of, as I said, putting those larger embellishments on the page first, and then I started to pick through and look for some smaller things to fill up the space. Now, you can see that my rows are fairly well defined. I have 3 distinct rows. But in terms of keeping the columns going down the page straight, that's where things just got a little bit muddied. As I said, I don't like things to look too precise on my page. So I hope that Gwen can appreciate my loose interpretation of a grid design. But I really did like this challenge. I like the fact it gave me the opportunity to use up multiple photos on a page. And the fact that my challenge using the larger embellishments, using larger embellishments in a grid design actually turned out to be a great idea. It just allowed me to bring a lot more structure to my page, and it was a lot easier to find placement for those embellishments, knowing that I had to be contained to those rows and loose columns. Did that make sense? I hope so. So you can see I'm going in with some more pieces from all of those die cuts that I had. I used a compass because I thought that tied in well to the whole travel theme. Where I have that postcard at the bottom there, I've got that embellishment, that vellum embellishment that says heck yes. And I was just kind of fiddling around. I knew I wanted to layer it with something just over the edge of it. So I ended up using, as I said, that compass embellishment. Now, it did have that little bit on the top to tie something to, so I just added a bit of baker's twine through that, which added just that little bit of texture to the page, because as I said, I did stray from my normal formula where I would pop my photos up on scrap cardboard and I would also add some frayed gauze to the page for texture. So there's no gauze on this page either. There's no doily on this page. I mean, who even am I, really? You can see that I also added that really sweet little paper plane embellishment there. Now, I'm looking at it and realising that it is actually upside down. So the paper plane is actually flying upside down in that larger one. But I didn't care because I really wanted the trail that's behind that paper plane to go where it's sitting now, if you get me. If I had have flipped it around the other way, the trail wouldn't have sat and had that flow where I wanted it to go. So I don't even care that the plane is upside down. It doesn't matter to me. But I've also got a little mini paper plane down on that postcard as well, which is just sort of, I'm using it more as an arrow to point into the subject, which is obviously the cat in the photo. And you can notice where I've placed those photos where he's looking. So the one where I've got him coming in from the left of the photo, I've placed to the left of my grid. And with the other two, the one where he's central is more central in the page, and the one where he's coming in from the right is on the right-hand side of the page. Now, that was all very deliberate because I wouldn't have wanted to reverse any of those around and have him looking off the edge of my page. I'm wanting him to look into the center. So you can see I've used a few little stickers, some heart stickers, a phrase sticker. I've also used a couple of little bits of chipboard like the geo tag and that sightseeing word, which I layered over the floral ephemera. And I'm just going in with one of my roller stamps with a phrase that says, "Let's fly away," because I thought that worked well with the paper plane. And that was it. So there we go. Grid design and large embellishments all on the one page. And there you have it. I hope you've enjoyed this process video today. I will put the link down below to Gwen's video so you can pop over and see how she's interpreted this challenge. And if you have any comments or questions, leave them down below for me and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thanks so much for watching today. I'll see you next time. Bye.